Okay, everybody, I think we'll go ahead and start now. So first of all, good morning and welcome to our latest webinar. So today we're going to be talking to you all about digital strategy for this year. And really what we want to talk about today is, giving you some information really on what activities you need to plan to create your digital strategy this year or update your digital strategy. And also what trends you should keep an eye on in terms of some of the technology trends that are happening out there. There's a lot of people on the session today, which is great, but all from different backgrounds. So we've got a number of e-commerce clients of ours. We've got a number of charities as well. So we've got a real mixture. So we're going to try and be mindful of that and talk to all the audiences that are on the chat. So what we're going to do is Julia and I are going to talk for around sort of 25, 30 minutes, and then we should leave a good 10 minutes at the end to answer any questions. So feel free to put comments or questions into the chat as we're going along, and we should be able to have plenty of time to pick those up at the end. Okay. So just firstly, who we are. So I'm Vicky Reeves. I head up all things digital at OPNC, and I tend to get involved in a lot of digital strategy and digital transformation and innovation for our clients. So that's who I am. And then Julia.
Here I am. I'm Julia. Welcome, everyone. I recently joined WPNC as user experience lead. What I normally do, I take care of the discovery and definition phase, so the initial part of the project. And I've been a UX designer for more than 8 years now, working with e-commerce, charities, e-banking, digital startups, so quite broad range of industries.
Great, thanks. So just for those of you who don't know us, we are a digital marketing agency, and we use insight and marketing technique and creativity and tech to ultimately to create compelling experiences. So that could be a website, it could be across digital marketing, it could be TV. And we're also considered, leading experts in frictionless payments. So we handle tens of millions of pounds online for a number of organisations, and we're always trying to innovate to improve that experience. So we were the first to launch some of our client sites with Apple Pay in the UK, and one of the first to launch donating and transaction via voice on Alexa. And also for those charities that are on the call, we also have a product called Go Donate and a number of other products where we look after the online donations for many leading charities like NSPCC and Battersea and Prostate Cancer and British Legion and etc. So that's a little bit about us, but that's not why we're here. So as I mentioned, what we're going to cover today is around digital strategy for 2021. I mean, as we know, we're not going to go into the detail of it, but we all know the last 12 months has been massive changes, in terms of the pandemic, but also the impact of what that's meant for all of us working in the world of digital. It's been an incredible year. We've seen so much digital transformation and change, now's a really good time. I'm sure you've all been adapting to that, but now's a really good time to be thinking about the future as well. So what we're going to do is cover, first of all, Julie's going to talk through more broadly around how to update your strategy, and also because of her background, it's going to be with a UX slant on it, which I think is an interesting way. And then I'm going to then talk through more of the sort of technology and digital trends that are ones to look out for. Okay, over to you, Julia.
Thank you, Vicky. So we are all really aware of that it has become vital important to have a digital strategy in 2021. Not just to have a digital strategy, but make sure that the one you have is up to date and reflects all the latest changes when it comes to user habits and also any internal change that might have occurred in your organization, because we know that everyone has been affected by this. So this morning, we wanted to look at what activities we normally undertake when we want to outline a digital strategy or update an existing one. But first of all, let's see what we mean with digital strategy, of course. Vicky, if you can go to the next slide.
Yep.
Thank you. So what goes into a digital strategy? When we talk about digital strategy, what we really mean is a plan that you will use to achieve some specific goals within your digital solution. So it's actually the first step to create a roadmap for your organization. And a good digital strategy is the one that keeps into consideration three main elements, which are user needs, business vision, and technical capabilities. When we approach digital strategy, if you can go to the next slide, So we normally like to use user experience to approach digital strategy. Why we do that? Because UX does exactly it exactly looks at these three elements. It provides us a structured process and it guides us easily towards the finish line, covering these three important elements. So let's see what are the steps to create a digital strategy that is relevant to your business and your users. Next slide. So we'll just talk through some of the activities and the different steps that you can go through with a UX approach. The first step, of course, is to understand your current reality by looking at your organization. This is very important because each organization is different. So what is the scope of your strategy? Has it changed in the last year? What is your mission overall, but also the individual missions of the team that are part of the organization, because that might change. What are the goals? What is the budget that you have? Has it changed? What are the resources that you have at your disposal? When we do this, we normally use, you can actually do this in different ways. You can use stakeholders interviews or workshops, depending on how many people you need to talk to. But it's really important to go out and speak with the rest of the organization in a structured way, of course, but make sure that you have a clear overview of where everyone is and what are their objectives and how your organization wants to move forward. So this is the first step. The second one, next slide. The second one is about understanding your audience. So what is the current reality of your users? This is incredibly important, especially because we've seen changes going on in the last year. So who is your current audience? Is it still the same or has it changed? Do you have new audiences that you have to talk to? What devices they use, what touch points they use? Again, we might see that changes have occurred in this area. What problems they're trying to solve, what drives them. There's a lot of questions that you need to investigate, you need to answer when it comes to the audience. And to do that, we normally use both quantitative and qualitative research. It's ideal to use both. Why? Because when we look into data, well, in that case, we understand how a digital solution is performing, how many people are using it, where they're from, you know, we got an overview of how everything is going. But the reason why, the actual behaviors of people, understanding why they do something, well, the only way to do that is to actually speak to your users. You can do it by sending a survey over, so that's pretty easy. Otherwise, you can actually conduct user interviews, and this is something that we really care about, and we try to do every time we can. We included here a couple of examples of user interviews from one of our commercial clients. And in this case, what we did, we reached out to their actual audience, and we started investigating, again, their needs, their behaviors. And what's interesting, first of all, it's something that you can do remotely. It's absolutely feasible to conduct user interviews remotely. And that's what we did here. So you can see from the screenshot, people with headphones on. It's really a conversation with them and also showing them different websites and understand their feedback, their impressions. So have a conversation. And this really provides you with powerful insights about your specific audiences. If we can go to the next slide. So the ultimate goal to do this, to understand and talk to your users, the ultimate goal is to be able to outline the full user experience that they currently have from beginning to end. And when we talk about user experience, we mean all the steps that they go through, the actions that they do, the touch points they use, as I was saying before, and also what they feel, their emotions at each stage of their experience. This is very important. And this is the only way, the best way, I would say, to outline the opportunities to improve the experience that you're providing them with. So I would like to, for example, in this example, this is a user experience mapping that we created, again, for one of our clients. And so you can see in the lower part, it's a little bit small, but it's actually in the lower part is where we highlight the opportunities. So we identify ways that we can improve the digital experience with a specific brand or service. So just to recap, first important thing to do is to understand your reality from the organization point of view and from the audience point of view. This is very important. Once you've done that, it's time to define where you want to be. And again, where you want to be as a business and also as a user experience. So first of all, as a business, in light of the assessment that you did, are the previous goals still relevant, or do they need to be changed for 2021? Do you need new goals for 2021? So it's very important to, first of all, outline the goals that you have, but also to identify the KPIs, the metrics, the objectives that you want to achieve. So, and this is also very, very important because the actions you take, for example, to increase the average order value or the average donation value can be very different from the actions that you decide to undertake if you want, for example, to reduce the churn rate of your donors or the churn rate of your customers. So it's important to define these metrics, these specific objectives, because they will guide all the next steps, the actions that you want to take, even the design and how it will look like if you need to change something in your design. So yes, really important, define where you want to be as a business, big goals, but also objectives that are quantifiable. And of course, the next step, as you can imagine, is to define where you want to be from a user perspective. So the final step is all about defining the user experience that you want to provide your customers or your donors, for example. And how will you help them achieve what they want? What's important in here is that you're not looking at the business goals. What you're looking is you're looking at your user goals. That's what you have to keep in mind. This is an example of a user journey that we created for one of our clients, and it's in relation to an event. So nothing to do with other, it's pretty specific. But what's interesting to see is, again, so we highlighted the goals, the user goals. We identified all the actions that we expect this person to go through. And this allows us to identify what kind of service we need to provide them with at which stage of the journey, and which touch points we need to use and which touch points we need to go through to reach them. So yeah, this is really about understanding and defining what kind of experience, ultimately, what kind of service and how you want your users to interact with it. By following this process, the result will be that you will have a digital strategy that is specific to your own needs. So understand your current reality from a business and user perspective, and define where you want to be, again, from a business and user perspective. This digital strategy will be specific to your needs. And this is very important because I cannot stress this enough. We can read a lot of articles. We can go online and check for best practices. We can do all of that. But that doesn't ensure, I mean, the fact that something was successful for someone else doesn't make 100% sure that it's going to be successful for us. So what you really need to do is to look at what are your needs. One solution might be different, might work differently from one organization to another. And what this kind of approach help you do is exactly this. So find something that define a strategy that is unique to you, considering both business and user goals. It also helps you minimize risks moving forward and be able to prioritize features, initiative projects, because now you have a clear understanding of the goals and objectives. So it's also easier to prioritize and create an actual roadmap moving forward. And hopefully giving you all the tools to be successful in 2021. So this was a little bit from my side for the digital strategy. Now I'm going to leave the floor to Vicky that will be talking to you about technological trends. Thank you.
Thanks, Julia. Okay, so what I wanted to do was highlight a few things that we're seeing that might be useful for you to consider in the future, or it might be things that you're already starting to think about now or doing now, and hopefully some insights that we'll share will be useful for your strategy. So I'm going to go with two different areas that I'm going to share some thoughts on. So the first one is around the world of e-commerce and online donations, again for those charities on the webinar. And the second area is around service delivery. So many organisations have had to rush to deliver some of the services that they maybe have normally done face-to-face and limited online over the last 12 months. And so I wanted to talk a little bit around what's happening there and the future there as well. I haven't focused specifically today on anything to do with other platforms such as social media and changes that we're seeing in that space. But that's probably something we'll do another webinar on another time. So first of all, I thought I'd start with bad news. So buying or donating online is actually getting harder this year. The reason being is that banks and payment processors have been battling with online credit card fraud for a number of years now. And their answer to that is to introduce something called 3D Secure 2. Now, I'm sure those of you who are working in the world of digital and particularly e-commerce and online donations, you will have heard of this already. So 3DS2, as it's known, basically means that when you go to make a transaction, you need to give essentially sort of two pieces of information out of three. So you'll notice it, you've seen it yourself, you go to make a transaction online, and what's happening now is you're starting to notice that you'll be sent a text message to your phone to confirm the transaction when you go to purchase. This is actually great for the banks. It is reducing fraud. That's exactly why it was introduced. However, it is causing more friction for users, and we are noticing that that there is actually a knock-on effect with the number of transactions that we're seeing, both in terms of the world of online donations and e-commerce, that we're starting to see a bit of a hit where organisations are starting to switch this on. It came out as legislation this year, but not everybody's got it up and running. I mean, the good news is it's not necessarily all the time that you'll notice this happens. So sometimes transactions often under £30 where it's considered low risk, it doesn't happen. However, we are noticing a bit of a pain. So the good news is, though, is the growth of digital wallets. And so, with digital wallets such as Apple Pay or Google Pay, where you tend to use your fingerprint or your Face ID to pay, that is considered under 3D Secure 2 to be one of the items. So therefore, you don't have to then have a text message sent to your phone or whatever it might be. So that's great from the point of view of sort of solving this challenge, because I think one of the problems that's happening with is just the lack of awareness with users understanding the whole thing about 3D Secure. There hasn't really been much customer awareness out there, and people register them, don't know what they're doing really, and so that's why we've noticed a knock-on effect. But anyway, that's great news for digital wallets. We've started to see, over the last few years, we've always been really pushing digital wallets anyway, because when you do have a digital wallet in place like Apple Pay, it makes the whole experience so much more frictionless. Because the great thing about it, if you implement it in the right way, we can, in the background, grab that data from your digital wallet. So we don't have to ask you to fill out your name or your email address or your postal address. We can grab that data from your wallet. So it's really nice and quick and frictionless. On our Go Donate platform, we've just started to look at the data for 2020, and we've seen across the board on average 7% of donations are through Apple Pay. And this is bearing in mind, this is across desktop as well, so we didn't split it out. So you can imagine, obviously on mobile, it will be a lot higher. Google Pay is not quite there yet, but we saw that double last year in terms of growth, so that's definitely up and coming. And PayPal, absolutely. I mean, PayPal's strong anyway. If you haven't got PayPal, then you absolutely should have PayPal. The key thing is that it gives users choice, and it makes it much quicker for them to check out or to donate. In terms of the sort of future of what's going on with online payments, we're always constantly looking at this and innovating. We're always looking at other options. So there are things like already available Amazon Pay and Samsung Pay. But to be honest, the take-up isn't there. The user experience is pretty poor with Amazon Pay. It's good, it's great in the States, it's used quite a lot over there, but it's not here yet in the UK, and so we wouldn't necessarily push it just yet. But another interesting area that I think we are starting to look at a bit more closely with the banks is this open banking, the open banking situation that we have with the banks. So, of course, most of you, I'm sure, have got your mobile banking app on your phone now. But what the banks are now looking to do is try and integrate that with the checkout process. So, as you go to make a donation or to check out to purchase, it then actually, rather than using a credit card, it goes straight to your banking app, takes the money that way, and then back to the website. The good thing about this is, obviously, from a security point of view, brilliant. Don't have to worry about all the 3D secure stuff as well. However, when we've been prototyping this with some of the banks, we can see the user experience is not there yet. So because it jumps you off into the banking app and then back again. So it's not ideal, but it's getting there. So that's an interesting space to watch out for. In terms of subscriptions and regular giving, so the traditional businesses and charities have often used direct debit for many, many years. But again, if you think about the changes that's happened over the last few years, and particularly last year as well, users want choice, and also you do see that other subscription type businesses, so let's say Netflix or Amazon Prime or others, generally, you don't tend to use direct debit anymore. You would tend to use either a credit or debit card or Apple Pay or PayPal. So actually, we're seeing a real shift away from direct debits into these other different types of digital wallets and payments. Again, for the GoDonate data, we saw this jump. It used to be on average that we would see around 25% of recurring gifts through GoDonate would be around 25% digital wallets. Last year, it jumped up to 35%. So we are definitely seeing a shift in this direction. And importantly, I think what is important, we've done testing before to show that the conversion rate does actually increase if you offer these other options as well. It's not just about giving choice, it's also about increasing the conversion rate. QR codes is definitely an interesting area. About 3 years ago, I gave a presentation at a conference saying that QR codes were the future and we should all be investing. And obviously, I was a little bit too early, I think. Unfortunately, it took a pandemic before we started using them seriously in the UK. In other countries around the world, they're really used prolifically, but it's taken the UK a while to catch up. Over the last 12 months, suddenly the general public have got much more used to using QR codes. We've been using them when we could go out of lockdown. We were using them at restaurants to browse a menu and to order, to pick up a drink or a snack in your local park cafe, and of course the NHS Test and Trace app. So because of that awareness has suddenly shot up, and people are now comfortable using those. It's great that your mobile phone, you don't need a special app or anything, you can just use your camera. So people are very used to this now. So as a result of that, many of organisations, including charities, are now looking at how to use QR codes more seriously in their direct marketing. So it could be in, of course, out and about in posters and out of home, but also in your direct marketing material, having a QR code to go straight to a quick, frictionless sort of donation experience, so things like that, or to something else. So it's a really interesting area, definitely one that you should be looking to explore if you haven't already. This is an example on the screen here from the Royal British Legion. We do all of their online donations, and we also launched last year for them for the Poppy Appeal to be able to donate via QR codes in order to get your Poppy. So this was on the side of boxes and posters and so on. Really fascinating, really high number of digital wallets. I think it was like 46% were Apple Pay, so really, really high. But I think the final thing I really wanted to stress about QR codes that I love about them is the data. So the great thing about a QR code is that you can encapsulate in that QR code pretty much as much data as you want and as much tracking as you want. So when a user scans that QR code and goes through to a website or whatever it is that they're doing, they don't realise, but you can actually put in an awful lot of data and tracking in there. So you could, for example, track it down to which location it's in, obviously particular sort of campaign codes, but also let's say even what poster it was on. There's loads of different stuff that you could do that makes it really quite interesting, I think. So that was that around e-commerce and online donations. So then the second area I wanted to talk about was around service delivery. So I think this has been fascinating the last year, the changes. So, you know, businesses and charities have had to really adapt to delivering services online. I mean, I think this is fascinating about physical gyms. I mean, you know, many of us would go to have our gym membership and go to the gym at lunchtime or evenings, and we've all been forced to sort of, if we want to exercise, to go for a run or to work out at home. But the growth of essentially sort of online home gyms has absolutely been incredible. So I'm sure many of you have heard of Peloton, the bike, and how they've got, you know, an integrated system with that. But you know, now what businesses are doing is that they're having these online subscriptions for a virtual gym. You can, you know, you have live sessions with instructors. It's almost like being in a class, but in your home. I mean, this is a fundamental shift in the way that we do exercise, and I'm sure it won't go away. In the middle there's a lovely Oprah Winfrey, who's very much topical at the moment. I think the point with this is that a number of, you know, there's now things like, I don't know, an audience with, you know, in this case, this was an audience with Oprah, and you could chat to her on Zoom and ask questions. You know, I mean, that was never like that before. Of course, you've got things like, you know, training services and, you know, online courses. They've always been around, but that's really been significantly enhanced over the last 12 months. And then down in the right, I think it's quite good fun, is, you know, there's things like music lessons that you do via Zoom. There's my friends in a choir, you can be in a choir and do that on Zoom. There's therapy sessions. So I guess the point of this slide is I'm sure many of you have already had to rush to adapt your services where traditionally it might have been more face-to-face. But the key takeaway I want you to think about really is about that now users will expect this. So even when we go back to the world post-June of being more face-to-face, users will expect both, and they will expect it to be available in all different channels at the way that they want to be able to experience it, and will expect to continue it to be online. And that user expectation goes a bit further in terms of delivering services, and that users also expect self-service online now as well. So, you know, through online account areas, through online chat, there's been a massive growth in online chat and also chatbots. So this is the automated way of having a sort of intuitive, it's meant to be an AI-based chat online. There's some good examples out there, and there's some really bad ones out there as well. I would suggest, if you're looking up at doing a chatbot, I would suggest that you take lots of learnings from your traditional online chat first of all. What types of questions, what types of answers that users normally want to have, and then you can then use that to inform your chatbot. I think that's an interesting area, and again, an expectation now. And that's not just, you know, in commercial businesses, but also in charities as well. There's a couple of big charity examples there. And in terms of service delivery and self-service, I think it's quite fascinating, just a personal thing, but the top screen there in the middle there is, I'm in the middle of selling a house at the moment. And historically, when I've, you know, moved house and sold my house before, you know, everything's all done via email or post with your solicitor of all the back and forth. But actually, there's this solicitor I signed up with it's all completely online. So everything from, you know, all your forms and completing your documents and the communication between all the different parties, it's all in one sort of self-service portal. And you don't even speak to the solicitor. It's quite a shift. So I think it's really fascinating that sort of type of stuff is happening in all sorts of sectors. I touched on subscriptions earlier, but this is another massive trend, you know, more generally with the subscription market. You know, smart businesses and charities as well are investing in looking at how can they offer subscriptions. You know, could they take their product or offering and offer a subscription base? Because, you know, it's a brilliant business model. It's consistent income every month. You can plan for it and plan. But at the same time, you know, we're also as users expecting to now have a lot more subscriptions. We expect to pay per month for things instead of a big upfront fee or just buying things directly. You know, nobody buys CDs anymore. So, you know, for those charities on the webinar, a monthly gift is a bit like a subscription, of course, but they don't really get much back for it. But so it might also be worth thinking about, well, what could you offer? Do you have any content or services that could be offered as a monthly subscription? And finally, my last point is I couldn't talk about any sort of future trends or things that are going on in the world of tech without talking about data. I absolutely love data. It's incredibly powerful. it can really help you make much more informed decisions and can really revolutionize your marketing and your engagement with your users. I know Julia touched on it earlier, but it really is vital for reviewing your digital journeys. And there's so many organizations that we speak to that you don't use all that lovely data you've got. You've got so much data already across various different systems and platforms that you're not using, and there's always more that you can do. But those, more savvy commercial businesses that are using data, are using it to do predictive modeling to anticipate and influence your next purchase or your next decision, and target new audiences in that way. So I just really wanted to leave on that point, really. Okay, so hopefully that gives you some useful activities and insights. Of course, if there's anything we can do to help you with your own strategy, or e-commerce or GoDonate or whatever, then obviously do let us know. So I think what we'll do now is start to have a look at the chat and Q&A. So if you've got questions, feel free to pop them in there. And Julia, have we got some already? I'll come out the screen.
Yeah, we have a couple of questions.
Great.
They're mostly about GoDonate.
Okay.
And the stats we share.
Okay.
So the first one is about, so it sounds as though all of these stats are taken from GoDonate. Yes, they are.
Yeah.
How much do we know about GoDonate users, and how much do they differ from the UK-based population?
Yeah, sure. So GoDonate is used by a number of different types of charities in the UK, and it's a good sample size of data. We had around £40 million worth of donations went through, one-off donations that went through last year, across all different types of charities. So, I mentioned a couple of charities already, but they're different types of sizes of charities and different sectors as well. So they do offer quite a good representative. I suppose it's probably worth noting that obviously when we put stats, things like Apple Pay, that's for those users that, those charities that have that enabled. It's obviously a percentage of that. We know that there's many charities out there that with their own donation platforms that won't necessarily have that type of digital wallets enabled. So they might see obviously different stats based on that. And
we have the next question is about digital wallets. So regarding the percentage of recurring payments via digital wallets that increased from 25% to 35% year on year. Was it specifically about donations via GoDonate or all recurring payments?
Yeah, so that stat was actually specific for donations. In terms of all recurring payments, in terms of wider for those commercial businesses, it depends on what you're offering. Some commercial businesses don't offer direct debit at all. And only offer other methods such as PayPal and credit cards. I mentioned Netflix as an example. So in which case you'll see completely different stats. But it is a good indication that, and certainly in commercial, I'll see if I can dig out some stats actually across commercial clients or wider, but I'm pretty sure it's normally higher than the percentages that charities have. I mean, it's more traditional with charities to have direct debits.
Thank you, Vicky. We had just this couple of questions. I don't know if there's any others.
Sure.
And
yeah, feel free to pop some.
Of course, to pop any questions in.
Yeah, we've still got a few more. We finished early, in fact, actually, which is good.
Yeah, we were very efficient.
Yeah. Well, we'll just talk about it ourselves while people either ask questions or drop off. It's probably also worth mentioning while some are also thinking of any questions, we do have another webinar coming up, which is completely different. It's on TV and social video. So that is on the 24th of March. So for those of you interested, what we'll do is after this session today, we can drop you through an email, and you can register that way if you want to go and have a look. We've also done some other sessions as well. I think there was one more around sort of conversational advertising and particularly through social media. So there's others out there that we've done or we've got coming up. We also, for those charities on the call, there is also one specifically around more of the data that we're going to be sharing of 2020 through GoDonate and other platforms, and that will be, I think, at the beginning of April. I think we're looking to do that. Yeah.
So if you're wondering about stats and you want to give a more specific look to GoDonate and what happened in the last year, we will be releasing the report later this month, beginning of April.
Yeah, absolutely. We love data, as you can tell. So we like that. I can see another question popped up from Dave.
Yes.
So yeah, no, it's international. So we have US clients and also European clients as well. There was another question actually in the Q&A pop-up, again about Go Donate. Yes, it is. There is charity rates available. The costs do vary. We have different versions. So we have Go Donate Essential, which tends to be for sort of more smaller charities, not the very tiny charities, but small charities. There's Go Donate Plus, which is launching, which tends to be for sort of the bigger charities, and then for the larger charities that take millions of pounds online, we have Go Donate Enterprise, which has got a very different cost base. So, but if anybody's interested, I'm happy to send over some info afterwards.
We have one more question. Are US clients donating via ACH? Is that becoming popular for recurring donations?
Yes, I don't have any actual stats on that, but I can double check and come back to you on that. But yeah, ACH is still popular over in the States, but credit card is also very, very popular. So yeah, I can come back to you on that. Oh, thanks for the email.
Okay, I think yeah, there are no more questions.
Cool. Okay.
Everything. We finished early.
Yeah, so hopefully you got plenty of time to go off and get a cup of tea before your next meeting at 10.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. Hope you found it interesting, and take care and speak to you soon.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for attending.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye.